Hey everyone, it's Ben from Tech Lockdown, and I just want to briefly go through some observations I've had over the past few years running a website that's dedicated to helping people with the technology side of the porn addiction problem. A while back, I got an email that kind of threw me off a little bit, and it was from a customer who wanted me to help him remove all the protective layers he had on his technology that was making it so he couldn't compulsively watch porn. When I asked him why he wanted to do that, he basically said that he had given up and he wanted to go back to his old lifestyle. Since then, I've really learned that there's a difference between people who say they want to quit and people that have decided to quit. And it has to do with kind of these catalyst events in their life that make it so that the cost of or the perceived benefit of porn use is outweighed by the cost that the person's now dealing with. So if you're quitting smoking, you might have like a health event. Maybe you have a lung cancer scare, or a loved one is really reaching out and kind of like begging you to change something. And that might be the push you need to sort of make this decision. For people that are dealing with porn addiction, I've discovered that there's a few like catalysts of change is what I would call it. The first catalyst for change, which I'd say is highly correlated with people really taking the steps that they need to take to actually quit, it's people that are struggling with sexual dysfunction. And it's a little bit awkward to talk about, but basically, sexual dysfunction is like with men, it's erectile dysfunction or just difficulty with intimacy in general. And you go to the doctor, and the doctor says everything's fine and basically prescribes you like porn free month, right? This is actually becoming a lot more common. Many of you may not realize this, but doctors and urologists that are starting to see a lot more younger men because they're having issues below the belt, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor realizes like, you know, there's nothing wrong with you physiologically. Um, but this can be really distressing, especially if you're a guy and like a lot of your identities kind of tied up in your masculinity, right? So this is kind of a catalyst for change for a lot of men. So another common thing I see, and it kind of goes hand in hand with sexual dysfunction, it's content escalation. And basically what this means is, over a long enough time period of dealing with addiction, you build up tolerance. So a lot of people, especially if you've had a long history with porn use, you're not watching the same stuff that you started out with, and you might actually be watching things that used to be disturbing or not interesting to you. It's now like your preference. So this is a wake up calls. This is a wake up call that a lot of people get that now is the time to kind of make a pretty significant change. Ultimately, one of the most common themes is that there's like a relationship that's been severely impacted by the addiction, mental health issues as well. So you can kind of imagine that if you're dealing with sexual dysfunction, or you're at the point of escalating into extreme content, that maybe your mental health is kind of taking a toll as a result, because you kind of feel like there's this thing you've lost control of, and maybe you kind of don't feel free. And so I'd say a really common catalyst is like just this combination of events, like your mental health is declining, content escalation and sexual dysfunction. And then a lot of times there's a relationship that either failed or is being severely impacted. So one of the reasons I'm telling you this is that if you are kind of on the fence about whether or not you want to give up this part of your life, I would recommend not waiting until you have one of these catalysts that ultimately occur for a lot of people, especially if you may actually have some of these problems and not know it. Especially there's a lot of people that maybe they haven't had the chance to test whether or not they have sexual dysfunction, because it only occurs during intimacy. It doesn't occur if you're using pornography. So my advice to you is don't wait for that catalyst moment. Try to get ahead of this and get this content out of your life, because ultimately it's going to be a positive thing for you to be able to form real relationships that are not hindered by kind of this thing that's hiding in the shadows of your life. I would really strongly just implore people to take this seriously and don't wait until your mental health declines, or you have such an unhealthy relationship. If you're interested in hearing more about this, or you have any questions, leave a comment below and subscribe. Or you could also go to the website and read the blog, because I've been writing more there as well.